Welcome back to Booze, Bros, and Cars, your favorite podcast about booze and cars. And we're your hosts. I'm Eric.
And I'm Nick.
All right. So, as we've stated before, these virtual podcasts are not going to fully go away, even though we started to do in person. There's some weeks that they're just going to be kind of rough for us to kind of meet up because of our day jobs and our lives and things like that. So,
children
too for you guys. But yeah, back to virtual for this week. So in old fashioned, of course, we're going to talk about what we're going to be drinking here tonight. So one of these, so I've got 3 drinks actually lined up. So one of these is actually the second beer that my buddy Chris actually got me when I went to North Carolina in November. When I drove back, I met up with him, which is the Veterans United Buzz and Bee. So this is a honey rye wheat ale. It's 6.3%. So I'm interested to actually try this because the first one was okay. I feel like the hops was a little oxidized, I think was the word that Mike said when we were drinking these.
Taste to it.
Yeah, it was a little funky taste, but I mean, I'm not gonna completely write them off. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was like a bad batch or something. The next beer that I have is going to be actually one that Mike got us. Is the Angry Chair. It's called Cool Story. This is a hoppy pilsner with Galaxy hops. I don't know what the ABV is on this because apparently Angry Chair just doesn't put it on their label. So I'll try to look it up while we're on the podcast so I can post up the ABV. And then when I polish those 2 up and I kind of want to get continue the drinking binge, I have Toki Suntory, courtesy of Nick talking very, very highly of this. I obviously opened that up and it actually is a really, really smooth whiskey. So that's what I have here lined up here for tonight. Nick, what do you got?
Not quite as many options as you, but in typical fashion, I've got a bourbon. This is just a standard Michter's bourbon. Nothing crazy. None of their ryes, none of their special aged or additions. Just the standard Michter's. And then because of something else I've done the last week or so that we'll talk about here probably very shortly, I decided to have a little import in my life for the day. A little sake. This one specifically is a Junmai Ginjo. Couldn't tell you exactly what that means, but I know I typically go after a lot of these. I like a lot of the unfiltered. This one's not an unfiltered, but drier palate and light, not sweet or anything like that, or anything heavy like a red wine. So finally decided to break out a little sake set my wife got me and do it the right way. Smaller portions as I kind of go through and something to kind of cool me down after all the bourbon. But that's kind of it for me. Simple. Little bourbon, little sake. And as it says on the bottle, imported. Can't really. Oh, there it is. It'll make more sense here in a little bit.
Yeah. Yes, it will actually. But before we actually jump right into that, a few podcasts ago, I kind of made like a really, really quick update about Formula One. There is one thing that I want to point out, which is that they finally kind of released news about Christian Horner, or the team principal of Red Bull, that they finally made a decision on the investigation against him. And all charges were dropped and they were acquitted. Ooh, that was interesting.
That was my fault. Don't.
You're good. So yeah, all charges were dropped and acquitted. So he is pretty much kind of free from that whole investigation thing. And even better news, he's going to continue to be the team principal for Red Bull. So that's really good news. But it's kind of still up in the air what's going to happen with Adrian Newey. Adrian Newey. Because apparently there's rumors that he might be going to Ferrari with Lewis Hamilton. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting. So I kind of saw that that's still a rumor that may be ongoing. But another thing is that usually with drivers, they have their engineers that they have a really good relationship with them and they kind of work together. So Lewis Hamilton's engineer is Bono. So apparently, according to Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton is not able to poach Bono. But if Bono wanted to, he can freely go to Ferrari with Lewis Hamilton, which may happen. I kind of hope it happens. They have a really good relationship. But anyways, that was...
I mean, even though I don't follow F1, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about Christian Horner and whatnot. And
Yeah.
I gotta say, honestly, with the allegations being thrown at him, even though it's all been dropped and he's been found to have done nothing wrong, I'm actually kind of shocked that he's going to hang around
But
and
yeah.
not take his talent elsewhere. Because I mean, they were throwing some shade at the guy. You know, like some there's basically slander. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
if that was kind of the deal. Like you're going to hear about like a new contract basically where he's pretty much going to be like, pay me more or I sue you guys for slander and defamation of character. So I wonder if he like
Yeah.
kind of held them and lit a fire under him. Was like, here you go, fix this shit.
Um,
Like, I
it's
mean,
it's possible. I mean, you
I have
never
a tough
know.
time personally, mentally sticking with something like that unless they found some way to really make that right. Because I mean, they've kind of drug him through the dirt over the last month or two. Like, the
Yeah.
publicity was not good for him. Even though now it's all clear, but that's a rough couple months of just being
Yeah.
kicked around and basically told you're a piece of shit and that you did some bad
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know. That's wild to me.
Yeah. Well, you're not wrong. You are actually 100% right on that. But you know what though? He stuck it out like a champ. But the reason
He
I feel like
did.
yeah, but I also feel like the reason why he's not leaving Red Bull is because Red Bull is still a championship team. They're keeping their championship driver, 3-time championship driver, and then after the last 2 weeks of testing that have been going on publicly, that new car is a fucking rocket ship. So there was
Okay.
a rumor, not a rumor. There was a comment that was made by Fernando Alonso, which is one of the drivers, and I love Fernando Alonso. He is fucking awesome. Mainly because there's a clip of him winning one of the GPs and then dancing fucking hilariously, which I'll clip that right here. I'll clip it here. It's really funny. But yeah, he's hilarious. But he actually said that there's 19 drivers on the grid that already know they're not going to win the championship. Dude, that is fucking crazy that that's coming out of his mouth because he's a 2-time world champion, like champ. So he knows what he's saying. And when
Yeah.
it comes to him saying like, okay, there's 19 drivers that know that they're not going to win the World Drivers Championship, that speaks volumes. And the season hasn't started yet, which is crazy. It starts this Saturday. This Saturday
I mean,
is the first GP.
it's a pretty epic, statement to make.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing when you're one of the baddest around and you're
Yeah.
just a badass, but yeah, that's a hell of a statement, man. That'll
It
put some
is.
targets on his back for sure. It should hopefully drive some people to drive a little harder, a little better, which hey, only makes the sport better. So
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's not just. I mean, so with Formula One, obviously you have the machine and you have the driver, just like any form of racing. But with
yeah,
Formula One, the driver and the car, they're very very much codependent. So you can have a great driver in a shitty car. Hence, perfect example, Lewis Hamilton. He's had shitty cars for the last 2 years. He's a 7-time world champ, and he was what I think he got third or fourth in the World Drivers Championship, which he's a 7-time world champ. He should be first or second.
yeah,
And he just had really shitty cars the last 2 years. So they're very, very much codependent within each other. So you can have a great car, have a shitty driver, and you're gonna have terrible results. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, I feel that.
Yeah.
So
Anyways,
yeah,
and on to more news. So if you guys saw my footage from when I had a very, very adventurous trip up to Atlanta, very exhausting trip. I'm not even gonna lie, but
I appreciate your trip.
this guy right over here, wherever he actually is on camera, bought a very, very interesting car. Which I'm go ahead and take the reins on this, Nick. I'll let you go ahead and talk about it.
All right, so I first have to preface this with a statement. I talk a lot of shit about certain brands.
Yes.
Nissan being one of them. Now, I want to specify that the shit I talk about Nissan is modern U.S. domestic market cars, the cars that are brought to here. And we've made mention of this in the past that all of us have some trust issues with Nissan and reliability and stuff like that, the CVTs, things of that nature, things they brought into this market here into the 2000s and whatnot. But we've all also pointed out, myself included, sometime on a previous episode, that the JDM market, or the Japanese domestic market cars that people are importing, are just a different breed, right? They were built to different standards. They were a different type of car, different types of technology, things of that line. I mean, frankly, Nissan made some great cars in the U.S. back in the 90s. In the 2000s, I just think it all went to shit. So that being said, as much as I talk shit about Nissan, I do truly appreciate the JDM aspect and the import cars. So last Wednesday was the end of an auction on Cars and Bids that I've been watching for a 1997 Nissan Cedric Gran Turismo Ultima. And I'll do a little share on my page. We don't really talk about a lot of things. If you saw this car, and you've ever seen my last name anywhere, it's very apparent that it was me that was bidding on the damn thing, because I'm not creative whatsoever with my usernames and anything. They're literally my first initial and my last name. But here it is. So I actually was lucky enough to, for what I think a very fair deal, pick this bad boy up. I was able to snatch this right off of Cars and Bids. There was a very short, so to speak, little bidding war there. I waited until the very end to even start putting bids in until it was down to the last 5 minutes or so. And me and one other guy went back and forth for about the last $1,000, just jumping back. I hit that last bid at $8,000. He pretty much commented out there that that was it. He was over. He was out. And I mean, there it is. I logged into my page. Congratulations, you won. That's it. I mean, I've driven it every day since Eric drove it back from outside of Atlanta on Saturday evening. He got back, flew him up there. He got there, a little bit afternoon. Who had to Uber to the guy's house, check the car out, exchange the check, put a plate on it, and bring it on back. So it was a nice long day for Eric in that aspect, which I appreciate very much. But I've got the car in my possession now. I've driven it every day since it got back here last week. It's probably got closer to 71,500 miles on it now, but it's an awesome car, right? It's the Ultima, so it's got the 3-liter turbocharged V6. It's got some fun, funky little things to it that not all of them have, like the digital dashboard and stuff like that. So it's just something I've always loved the front end of these cars for whatever reason. It's got like some little blemishes and stuff. It's really only 2 paint blemishes that I got to take care of and some chipping on the grill, like some really just goofy little things. But all in all, the interior is pretty clean for 27 years old and wear and use. The powertrain is strong. The transmission is great. The wheels are terrible. I am currently working on sourcing coilovers and wheels and tires for it to make it sit a little bit better. And I'll be doing realistically let's call it a semi VIP build, right? I'm going to keep it low. I'm going to keep it kind of stand out and obnoxiously, but I'm going to put it on a more sport style wheel, no crazy camber, no bags, and I want it to sit flush and sit right up to the wheel wells, like you would a sports car, a race car type thing. So it's got some plans to it, working on potentially wrapping it once I get a couple of the paint issues smoothed out, and then just seeing where it kind of goes from there. So very excited, but I am now kind of a hypocrite for all the shit I talk on Nissan. I now own a 1997 Nissan Cedric that was imported a couple years ago from Japan. And I was telling Eric before the podcast, it's got to be the best $8,000 I've ever spent. I had a Miata prior to, and the Miata made me smile. This thing gives me definitely a grin for sure. I won't say that full-blown smile of throwing it around, but the comfort, the ease of driving it. I put 300 miles on my Miata in about a year. I'm going to put almost that in the first couple weeks of owning this thing just because I'm enjoying it so much. So, yeah, it's just an awesome vehicle. I'm happy to have it. I am definitely a bit of a hypocrite. I will take the hit for that. But yeah, something cool, something new, and for the four of us, for as much as we talk about JDM, especially Eric, the fact that I'm the first one that bought a true imported JDM car just boggles my mind. He beat me to the Corvette, but I was the first one to pull the trigger on a right-hand drive car, so got something.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is? You and I have talked about this on and off, but I could have had a right-hand drive car, a legendary right-hand drive car years ago. I want to say 2016 is when I could have had it, but things didn't work out. But I kind of wish I still pulled the trigger on it, especially after driving the Cedric, because man, I could have. I'm just gonna say I could have actually bought in a Skyline GTR and R32 back in 2016. For what was the name of the dealership again that was in Tampa? It was
Oh,
they changed the name. It's like a weird name now.
it was Montu
Montu,
Motors.
Montu
Yeah,
Motors, yeah. But I could have bought one from them for God, fuck, man, 25 grand. Now they're double that right now, and
that was
it's
the money, dude. We were all looking at them. They were 20 to
yeah,
25 grand for a good condition, low mile GTR and R32.
yeah.
And here we are now, where your decent condition one's 55, 60.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually talked about this at the dealership the other day. Like, really, I missed an investment opportunity. But my wife would very quickly point out I would never sell it, even if I could
Oh
make a
yeah,
bunch of money on it. I
I know.
wouldn't. She knows me too well for that. So she's right. But
Can you
yeah,
imagine if can you imagine if I did pull the trigger on that thing? Because it would have been what 7 years of me owning that thing right now. Can you imagine how much fucking power that thing? It probably would have been like a 700 horsepower GTR at this
it would have been
point.
easy. It would have been easy. But
Man,
talking about the JDM stuff too, I wanted to shout out to somebody, local car guy in our community, Anthony Kramer, who's got a pretty badass ESS tuning supercharged S550 Mustang. He used to be the JDM guy, and he came in clutch while I was out of town for a concert on Tuesday or Monday evening. He had some of these old adapters
mm-hmm,
that allow you to bolt up a USDM license plate to the holes for a JDM bracket,
mm-hmm.
because the plates are a little bit different size. The holes are just a little bit farther apart, I believe, on the Japanese one, a little closer to the edge. So this will allow me to secure it with more than one bolt, as it is right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, so shout out to Anthony for being another cool local car guy that just happened to have a couple of these laying around, and I can now worry about or not worry about my plate flying off at some point. So
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I was driving your car back, at one point, I think I stopped at a racetrack and I was like, "Let me see if the plate is still there." Which I
and
mean, like,
it would worry me a little bit. I don't blame you.
yeah, which I secured it as much as good as I can, but I mean, like, it was only being held up by one bolt. The good thing about cars from Japan, America needs to step it the hell up when it comes to cars, man, because like the bracket or the area where you can put the plate, it's got like this little like deck where the license plate can sit on. Like
Rather
we
than
don't have,
rattling. Yeah,
yeah, we don't have that here in the U.S. Like what the fuck, like U.S. Like,
yeah.
come on,
I've seen some of the
do better with
Highline cars
cars.
kind of have something like that, like some of the German Highlines and European Highlines and stuff have it. But yeah, most of them are just meh.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I was just like, I was kind of concerned because I was like, man, like I'm gonna be driving this car dirty with no plate if that plate falls off. But it
I'm
was,
a little concerned too because it was already registered to that plate.
yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I secured it as much as I can when I was there. They're 10 millimeter bolts, by the way, if
Yeah.
you are gonna remove them. But yeah, like the guy that you bought the car from, he didn't have like a socket with a wrench. He gave me like a ratchet, and I'm like, the fuck am I gonna do with this? I did what I could with it, but anyways, yeah, still a great purchase, dude. That Cedric was awesome. There's only one thing that I'm not a fan of with that car, and it's the fact that it does not have cruise control. That's it.
Yeah.
Only thing that I was not fond of on that car. Aside from that, everything else, the car is phenomenal. It's solid. It drives like a champ, super fucking smooth for being a 27-year-old car. It drives probably better than my Lexus, and it's a 2011.
Yeah, it's deceptively comfortable. Now, obviously, once I throw some BC racing coilovers on it to bring it down lower, it's gonna ride a little rougher. But I've hit a couple bumps doing like 60 on a slight curve, and that back
Mm-hmm.
end wants to like shift out and float out from under you. So
Oh
it
yeah.
it does need the stiffening.
Mm-hmm.
It is gonna be a hell of a learning curve figuring out what parts are compatible that I can easily get in the US, whether it be for
Mm-hmm.
suspension or motor modifications or anything.
Yeah.
Because there's only 4 cars that were built from the factory with that engine, and all 4 were JDM cars that weren't offered here. So there's some little things like that. And then the suspension can be a little bit interesting. There are some parts available for it. There are some coilovers available for it, but you either got to weld in your coilovers to the front spindle or spend a little extra for the BCs because they have an option to come with brand new spindles pre-installed on their front coilover setup. So you don't have to worry about any welding, which is the route I'm trying to go because I'd rather not weld anything. And then, aside from that, some people do like an S14 suspension swap, which would be very, very interesting. And it's oddly enough, Danny Diaz, another one of our JDM buddies, between him and his girlfriend, they've got an R32 heavily modified from what I've seen with some beautiful TE37s. And then Tina's got a badass AE86 with a fresh paint job, getting its nice silver Neo Max coilovers installed right now. And she's got a really nice set of work 4-spoke wheels getting ready to go on it. But anyway, Danny climbed under it real quickly the other day when I went to see them and show the car to him. And he thinks he sees a lot of S14 parts in the suspension already. So somebody may have already done the S14 suspension swap for some of the control arms and stuff, which would make my life incredibly easier. So I will be hopefully maybe on this Sunday later in the afternoon or at some point putting up on my jack stands and getting under it and taking a look at some part numbers and stuff and see if I can backtrack and see where they went to. Yeah, so it might have some like little hidden gems that came with it from Japan that nobody recognized or said anything about prior to. So we shall see. So if anybody watching this, in the small chance that somebody is that owns one of these, or a Gloria, or a Cedric, or a SEMA, or I think the Leopard's the other one that had a very similar setup and chassis. It's a Y33 chassis. But if anybody, please feel free to reach out, comment, find me somehow. I've got questions. I'm open for some ideas and looking to make this not a complete money pit, but find a way to affordably do just some simple things and make it a better and better driver.
Oh yeah, and I definitely think that you can actually achieve that goal. Just be like a more comfortable driving car. Let me rephrase that: a comfortable modified car.
Yeah, almost ever so slightly resto modded with a little bit more modern suspension setup, just to make it a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, because
later in the handling, I think I would say.
Yeah, because I'm gonna admit, like my Corvette has BC Racing coilovers, and I love BC Racing. It's my second set of BC Racing coilovers that I have. The first one was from my BRZ when I had it back in I think from 2016 to 2018. I think I had the car.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Great coilover, probably by far one of my favorite ones, and I will continue to fucking rep them as long as I have a modified car. I've even told Nick when he had the G70 to see if BC had a compatible suspension for his car, but they didn't have it before he sold it. But
right.
I'm glad that they actually do have one for the Gloria, because you're going to experience the quality of coilover that they actually offer, and you're probably going to be impressed, because I'm not gonna lie, BCs, they're top notch.
I hope I'm impressed, because I will admit, mentally going into this, I already told myself I'm buying silvers. I'm buying some of those Neo Maxes, man, because they're built by Fortune. They're basically just an off-brand Fortune, built by Fortune. So very well-known brand, especially in the Japanese car market. But I was all for that. And they used to make a set with pre-attached spindles. They no longer do. So it now left me to BC or Megan Racing, and given the names and what I'm gonna go BC. There's just no question about that, unless somebody pulls a set of silvers Neo Maxes with spindles out of their attic that's never been used. That looks like BC is the way I'm going. Which I've got a buddy of mine with a performance shop actively working to find me a set.
Nice.
And see what they're going to run me. So, and then one of these days, I've got after some communicating, I'm going to go stop over to Import Image Racing and check some wheels out for fitment.
Nice.
So, yeah. And then obviously I'm going to put Firehawk Indy 500s on it. That's just That's
gonna be a good
just the
combo.
way. Yeah, it's just a great wheel. But yeah, so hopefully if all goes well in the next month or two, it'll have some coilovers and some wheels and tires, and then I can start looking towards fixing those couple paint issues and looking into the wrap more seriously. So, and
Nice.
that's really going to be it for probably a little while, other than some little odds and ends, accessories, things like that, cleaning up some of the interior, you know, fixing the elastic and the seat back pouches, stuff like that. I'm going to do some little things, but the big thing is going to be wheels, tires, coilovers, and then probably a wrap of some sort just to give it a nice fresh color.
Nice. Nice. Oh yeah. I mean, the only comment that I am gonna say is that there's a reason why um, a lot of professional drivers, um, mainly drifters, they use BCs because they shoot for gold. Moving on. Anyways. But yeah, no, congratulations on that. The white 33.
Appreciate it.
It's a great car, man. Like I said, I enjoy driving it for the 9.5 or 10 hour drive. It was like what 600 and something miles to your house. Fuck man, that's a lot, dude.
Probably, and it car handle it flawlessly.
Oh yeah, it took it like a champ. I think I told you I was actually surprised by the power of it. Like it's not like a super fast car. It's very very much a comfortable car. It's a quick comfortable car for the size and the weight of it. But like
for being 27 years old and being a big 4-door sedan, that turbo 6-cylinder does a good job. And I don't know if you play with it, but there's like the automatic transmission switch for snow, normal, or sport. The sport mode definitely does what it does in most cars, you know, increases the kind of red line before it shifts, but it increases the throttle response a little bit too. And I will admit, man, you put that in sport and kind of get on it, and for what it is, it moves very well, but it just keeps pulling through the acceleration, just steady until you let off. I mean, it'll just keep going. So, based on the fact that I don't trust the floaty suspension, I haven't pushed it much more than probably 65 miles an hour. But anywhere around here where there's more turns and not straight highways. But so I'll get it there. I'll get it definitely more planted.
Yeah, I'm not sorry to say this, but I probably took it up to like a little over 90, but it was unintentional. I mean, mostly because
wouldn't be surprised on the highway.
75, I was like, so I drove it, and granted, the speed that I'm going to say it's in kilometers, so it's not as fast as you think it is.
Yeah.
But it was like 130 to 135 kilometers per hour, which is roughly right between 80 and 85 miles per hour. And you know, like I'll be on the highway, and then there's like a car that's like right next to me, and I'll see somebody just like kind of creeping up on me. So I'm like, okay, let me kind of speed up. Let me get in front of this car so I can like let them pass and I can cross back over, dude. And then like I just tapped on the gas just so I can speed up. And then like when I look at the dash, I'm doing like 155 kilometers per hour, and I'm like, holy shit, this is like 94, 95 miles per hour. So I had to like get off the gas. The dude passed me, change back lanes or change lanes again. And I'm like, holy shit, this thing actually picks up and goes. Like it's a good car. It's a good car. It's a good tractor.
No. I'm definitely excited for it.
Yeah. But anyways, moving on.
Your next 4-door JDM sedan, R34.
Man, I want to, man. I just at the moment I can't. But soon, hopefully soon. Definitely within the next year or so, I would say.
I mean, depending on how some conversations go in the future.
Yes, in the very near future, how some conversations will go. But definitely leaning more towards a 4-door Skyline. I'm not going to say which model it is. I may have already. I'll have to watch this to see if I said
it. I may have mentioned it. But yeah. I mean, with you already having the Corvette, I think a 4-door sedan would be pretty badass.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, because I had the GS 300, or it was the Aristo in Japan. I love freaking big body 4-doors. They're awesome. There's a reason why I want another one, but I feel like a 4-door Skyline or a JZX. I don't care what JZX. It could be a 90 or a 100.
Yeah, personally, I don't know. Everybody in their model. And I think the JZX is a way, just like the Cedric and the Gloria, I think it's a way more understated sedan Plus, you can get the 2 JZ is in the JZ, or is it the 110? The 110 had the 2 JZ.
I think so. The 110 had the 2 JZ, and then the 90 and the 100 had the 1 JZ. I think they had
Which is
non-VVTi JZs.
that could be fun. Just saying.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But I mean, like, if I got a JZX, everybody and their mother wants to get a chaser. It doesn't matter if it's a 90 or if it's 100. Everybody and their mother wants to get a JZX or a chaser because it's like the most popular chaser. Don't get me wrong, it's a great looking car, but
yeah,
I wouldn't want to get one. I would probably end up getting Mark IIs are nice, but I would probably end up getting a Cresta because it's like the least desirable out of the JZX chassis. But I like that about it because it's like the underdog out of like the 3 chassis.
Well, the Cressida was more like boxy VIP sedan than the other options, I think, wasn't it?
That's the Cressida is the one that we got here in the 80s. The Cresta is the JZX. Sorry. Yeah, it came in the 81, the JZX 80 or 81, JZX 90, and they came in the 100. But yeah, I would get a Cresta. I just like them. It's like a funky little 4-door car.
Again, the mid and late 90s JDM sedans, just they all look good. Like,
yeah,
they just all 100%. Look good. Like I said, I sent you that 98 R34 sedan today on Cars and Bids, same place I got mine from. Shit, that thing, I don't know what it sold for, but it sold off today for sure.
Did it?
Yeah, it when I sent it to you, it was gonna finish today. It went for $14,900, and it was right here in Florida. So
it says no reserve on it though.
Really not bad. Yeah, it was set. It was no reserve. It did sell at that number. And the nice thing with that was sadly, I think it was just an RB20 non-turbo, but it was a 5-speed manual. So it had that going for it. But yeah, it was a 2-liter, so it was an RB20.
If I got that though, like if I got a Skyline, it'll have to be a 25, especially a 4-door, because the 4-door.
Well, that was it. So this was just a normal GT 4-door. Like you got to get at least a GTT, and then that way you get the RB25 DET. Otherwise, you'd have to swap it into a GT. So yeah, that really is the answer: is to get the GTT model, the turbo aspect. But I've seen those kind of floating around there. One of them actually back in November, no sold, bid up to 13.3, didn't sell. So they've definitely got probably a bigger market because at that point you're damn close to a GTR engine and 4 doors. But definitely would be badass to see you in one of those. We could be Nissan bros.
Hell yeah! Look at you, man, knowing more shit about JDM cars. I'm fucking proud.
I follow and look at them more than you would think. I don't know the Toyota stuff all that well, aside from like the week I spent in Japan and seeing crowns everywhere and how beautiful they were. I couldn't generally see one of those drive by and be like, oh, check that out, it's a Toyota whatever. But I've always had this weird soft spot for the Cedric and the Gloria, specifically my gen with that quad headlight and the marker light look, because it reminds me of like a baby Bentley Arnage. And I've always loved the look. It has a very British regal front end look to it, which just seems weird. And it's that front end that does it for me. So when I see one of those, I'm like, oh, I get all excited. Even if it doesn't have that headlight, when I see one of the big body SEMAs for an earlier generation, like a Y32 chassis, like they just stand out to me. I don't know why. It's probably also the little special, like, that weird little like crane badge on the front. It just, I don't know. It gives me a feel and some kind of weird nostalgia, and I like it. I don't know why. So I was determined to eventually. I talk about it all the time. I was going to get a Gloria. I wanted a Gloria. The Cedric and the Gloria are so freaking similar, minus some minor aesthetics, that when a Cedric popped up in the correct generation with the correct package and the front end appearance setup that I like, just had to go for it.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I need to get one now too, especially after driving that Cedric for like freaking 10 hours.
I mean, you're getting yourself into now if you find a decent one, but
I do, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of glad that I was one that actually drove it down because like that Cedric wasn't the first right hand drive that I've driven.
There's a reason I reached out to you for
It's
this.
it was that would have been my third, yeah, because the first one that I drove was both of them were Edwin's cars, and it's funny because they were both Nissans. But I drove his 180SX and I drove his Zafiro, and I've already been used to driving right hand drive cars, so like I knew what to get myself into when I got into it. Um, I know that a buddy of ours wanted to tag along as well, but which it would have been fun if he would have gone, but I'm kind of glad that I was one that actually drove it all the way down because I know that driving a right-hand drive car is not easy to just kind of jump into and start driving. Like it's you have to get used to it first.
Yes, you do. I will admit. Honestly, staying close to the right has been a bit troublesome the first day or so.
Yeah,
Now I drove my Explorer ST the other day, and I had a real tough time staying in the left side of the lane. I kept
that's
hitting the
funny.
bumpers, dude. Yeah. So,
That's funny.
but yeah, the first couple
Cracking
days
wheels.
in the Cedric, I kept touching the markers, the little reflectors in the center dash lines. I've got it figured out pretty well now. I have a good understanding of the size of the body, the length, the width. But the weirdest thing, and I'm glad you told me this, and even though you told me this, I still had a very clean windshield by the time I got back home. The
Dude.
stalk, for anybody that doesn't know, the stalks are switched. So your
Yeah.
wipers are on the left now, and your turn signals are on the right, as opposed to the other way like they are in any left-hand drive car in this country. So yeah, my first little around the block when it got here at like 11:45 at night on Saturday, I hit the windshield wipers at least 5 times. Uh, very clean windshield by the time I got home from going around the block. But since then, maybe only once or twice tops. I've kind of got it figured out now because what I do now to remind myself is I throw my arm up on the thing, hand on the steering wheel, and then my hands just like right there, so I can just kind of flick it up and down when I need to. So I've adjusted my driving style when I'm in that car to help me remember what to do. Because yeah,
Nice.
if I'm at like a 10-2 or like a 3-9 driving it, it's so easy for me to try to hit that left side, and I end up hitting a wiper.
You know what's actually really funny, and it's happened to me twice since I've driven the Cedric. Actually, since Monday through today, which is Wednesday, I've hit my wipers twice to use the turn signal because I
Yeah,
drove that thing for freaking 10 hours straight.
I
So
know.
I'm
Yeah,
used to like hitting the freaking turn signal, like changing multiple times. So I can change lanes left and right, dude. Freaking twice it happened to me, and I'm like,
it's a sign,
it
simply a sign.
is, it is. But
In due time. In due time.
well, one, in due time, and two, when it is time, I'm gonna keep my IS because it's like it's my daily. I don't want to get rid of it. So if I get a JDM car, like obviously the Corvette is like the fun sports car that I will be
Yeah.
driving to like events and things like that. And I feel like if I get a right-hand drive car, it'll be the exact same. So I'll just be rotating between cars here and there. So it's kind of what I want to do. But
I feel
yeah,
you on that because I still wouldn't mind in the next year to 2 years adding a GT Mustang to the fleet so that I can have an autocross car again.
yeah, I've got to ask because I'm sure the questions are going to come up because now that you have the Cedric, what's going to happen to a Porsche?
I'm still shopping parts for it.
Okay.
It might get put on a back burner until I get the suspension and wheels figured out on the Cedric. But because it's already again, other than a handful of aesthetic option items that I can mostly take care of myself, and a couple of the little things if I really want to attack them, I got a great paint guy at the dealership that does some side work when he's not painting for the dealership. But yeah, I mean, really, I'm hoping in the next 2 to 3 months to have the suspension, wheels, and tires sorted out. And the other stuff is just nitpicky shit. It's a great driver as it sits. I just do not like these SVT Cobra R knockoff wheels that are on it. They sit too shallow into it. They're kind of sunken in the wheel wells. I have no idea what brand of tires are on the damn thing. So for me, really, I just want to get it low without bags, like reasonably low. I'm not going to tuck the wheels or anything into the fenders. So I just want to get it lower, more planted, stick your tires, better wheels, and get a good alignment. And aside from that, a nice big heavy maintenance, just the basic shit, all the fluids and stuff like that, and not go too crazy. I mean, I'd be lying if I told you I didn't search and see that there's some easy turbo swaps and cone filters, like an HKS, one of those like semicircle filters on there. I already know I can get easily get an HKS blow off valve and install with an RB25 adapter plate. Like I looked into all this stuff, but none of them are things that I'm like rushing out to do. You know, like sure, don't want to go bigger turbo someday and do a full custom turbo back exhaust from my buddy locally that does welding. Absolutely, and get some like road tuning. Sure. Is that any bit of a rush? No. If I want something fast, and this sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, I guess, because it's a 5,000 pound third row family SUV. I've got my Explorer.
Mhm.
Damn thing will run 11s in the quarter, and it's like 550 horsepower. Like I don't need to make this thing a rocket ship
Yeah.
because I've got something that I can throw the whole family and both dogs and rock it off down the road in whenever I want.
Yeah.
So this is more for just a cruiser, I guess,
Mhm.
right? I'm not going to try and build it into a drift car. Sure, a 5-speed Nissan Z70 or Z32 transmission will be a great project someday.
Mhm.
But man, I'm still trying to get used to sitting on the wrong side of the car, let alone shifting with my left hand. So that is so far down the road. Like I've already got a Porsche chassis with a factory seat in the correct side of the car and a manual transmission. Like I don't need to start going crazy. I'm already doing a big enough power plant transfer into that Porsche project that really I just want this thing to be aesthetically sorted and
Mhm.
suspension sorted, and it's an awesome car. Like I'll probably will I keep it forever? Knowing me, no. Will I take it from 71,000 miles to 100,000? There's a good chance. I'm gonna drive the shit out of it. Like I'm one of those. I will buy. I don't care. I'll buy a $2 million Ferrari and drive the piss out of it. I do not care. They're meant to be driven. This obviously is an $8,000 Nissan, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
drive it. I'm gonna drive it as
Yeah.
much as humanly possible against my insurance company's best wishes. But I'm gonna do it anyway because I bought it.
Yeah.
It's mine. I own it. I have the title, and I want to have fun with it.
Yeah. Well, so a couple points that you said. So first off, is the Cedric really on the wrong side of the car, or is it on the right side of the car?
Well, if I had my way and have a house in Japan in the future, no, it would not. But for our roads, it's a bit of, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. Would it be nice if, like modern cars, I could hit a button on the dash and convert it to miles per hour? Yes, that would be very nice.
Yeah.
Because I play a guessing game and I'm not good at staying with the flow of traffic. No,
So
I'm usually passing people and I have no idea how fast I'm actually going.
so I
But
should have told you this, but you know that so how I knew what speed I was going was I was using Waze, because Waze
okay, that
has a
makes sense.
it has a speed indicator that you can turn on.
And
So
Apple Maps will do the same thing for me. Really, you know what I'm gonna do? As cheesy as it sounds, I'm gonna print a tiny little cheat sheet. I'm just gonna stick it next to the gauge cluster with
that works
like
too.
100 equals 62 miles per hour,
Mm-hmm.
80 equals like 49 miles per hour. Like I
Yeah.
in my head I know a couple of them, but just be able to quickly glance and be like, hey, that sign said 30 to 35. I should be doing 70 kilometers per hour, like
Yeah.
stuff like that, or 65 kilometers, whatever it is.
115, I think, is like 60. I think right around
10
60.
100 is 62. And the only reason I
Oh,
know
I'm
that
sorry. I'm
without
sorry.
Googling it is because in Europe, they do 0 to 100-kilometer tests as we do a 0 to 60, but it's actually 0 to 62. The
Yeah.
way that's the only reason I know that. So if I'm doing
Or
100, I'm doing 60, basically.
Or I'm sorry, 115 is like 70-ish miles per hour. That's
Yeah,
what it
that makes
is.
sense.
That's
Yeah.
that's what it is. Okay, so I'm just gonna throw this out there. Don't hate me. I just sent you a text right now for
Oh,
pretty
shit.
much. It's called website. It's called Nengun, and they
Oh,
pretty
I've been
much
there
have
already.
a specific page for Nissan Cedric and Nissan Gloria stuff. So
Yeah. But if you have looked at the shipping for some of this stuff, because a lot of it's coming out of Japan, it is hefty.
I have not
But
because
I was looking at some goofy stuff like I had that one paint blemish on the fender that you noticed as well.
yeah.
I looked into what would a fender cost me, and there's like 2 or 3 of them that one of these websites had in Japan,
Mhm.
just in case there was rot underneath of it. The fenders are like $80. The shipping's like 2 something, which
Ooh.
in the grand scheme for what the car is Is it going to break the bank? No. Is it going to hurt me a little bit in my heart? Yes, but I could replace some panels here and there if there was some kind of metal rot going on and get it back to clean normal before I wrap it. So, but my paint guy checked out that one issue and he's like, you might have a little surface under there, but he's like, I would tell you to chip away at that with a little pocket knife, a little steel wool, wrap that bitch, and it'll be protected. So I'm like, all right. So I had a paint professional tell me he's not concerned about any of the things that I showed him. So that's a very good start.
Yeah. Well, I mean, worst case scenario, I mean, we can always take a trip to Japan, just get a container and then have it stuffed full of shit and then, just have it shipped back to US.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
if all goes to plan, I go back to Japan for my 10-year anniversary since I honeymooned there, and I'm buying car parts shipped back. That also might be my divorce on my 10-year. So
just make sure you buy a house without her knowing.
Yeah. Oh, she's all for that. She's down for the buying a house over there.
That's awesome.
We're not there quite yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the first point I was going to make. I forgot what the second one. Okay. Yeah. So you said that, obviously there's going to be some conversations, hopefully for good things in the very, very near future. Mm-hmm. But I was just going to say, Christian von Koenigsegg, the freaking president and CEO and owner of Koenigsegg, still drives an NA6. You can drive a Nissan Cedric when you have not a Ferrari, a Lamborghini.
I mean, given the money, I'm still buying a Porsche 911. But still, to your point.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. To your point, yes, I can still happily drive a 30-some-year-old Nissan around. Mm-hmm. But, yeah. And if it's not that one, it may just be a more powerful one in the future. I don't know. We'll see. So the JDM bug is definitely bitten hard. After all these years of dreaming about one, to have one now and to see how much I'm enjoying driving something pretty much so factory as far as I can tell from 27 years ago just boggles my mind. And I know we've gone on and on about this, but it just shocks the shit out of me. Like I never would have thought. I figured it was gonna be like the Miata, something I'd drive every now and then, kind of fun, have about the same money tied up in it and just have a good time. But I've enjoyed it way more than I deserve to enjoy it, honestly, and kind of scares me a little bit because the thought came to my mind where I almost had the opportunity to dump my ST and get out of it clean, and I was like, who gives a shit? I'll just drive the Nissan every day. Like that thought actually has gone through my mind already, and and I love my Explorer, I love the power, I love the technology, but maybe I'll save some money and get rid of the expensive shit and just drive some old shit boxes from Japan.
I mean, there's a thought.
Give me a little right-hand drive CRV like Mike sent a picture of earlier for the family.
Mm-hmm. Right-hand drive CRV actually would be kind of cool. Actually, I did see something really interesting, which was, I can't remember. I found it somewhere, and I think it was on Facebook Market, where somebody was selling, it was like this weird little, it was like a little van, but it wasn't like your typical like Suzuki or Mitsubishi van. It was from like a different brand. And he had like this
little K vans. Not like a Mitsubishi Delica, but like the tiny ass little K van.
Yeah. And dude, I saw that thing and I was like, bro, I think they had it for sale for like 13 grand. And I was like, bro, that would be like ideal for like a fucking Sebring van, because like you can literally put everything into it, drive it up to Sebring like an hour and a half away, and then you can still pull all the shit out of it, and then you can put like a mattress in there and just fucking pass out there.
What's crazy about that is those were one of the first things that started catching my eye on Cars and Bids.
Oh yeah?
To the point where I started showing the K trucks based on the same chassis to one of my sales managers that sits next to me. His wife's got a Bronco. He's got a Raptor F-150 brand new. Like, they've got nice vehicles. And it was kind of funny as two of them are smaller stature people, petite. They got two massive Great Danes. But like, he saw some of these K trucks lightly modified, like custom interiors, and he like fell in love with these things. So he's now been going on Cars and Bids weekly, looking to see if one pops up for him to bid on. And while he was doing that, I'm looking at the K vans built in the same chassis, and that's how it all started. And then the Cedric popped up, and that was it. Because oddly enough, I was watching 3 cars. One, very unrealistic. I mean, knowing what the market is, unrealistic for now. In the future, I'd like to grab one, but it was a 2021 RS6 Avant. I just wanted to see what the real market was for a true consumer-driven website that's chasing these things, not the auctions and all that bullshit. It sold today for 96.5, or yesterday for 96.5. So realistically, a decent price for what it was. Breaking sub 100 grand when some of these dealers are asking stupid money. The other car was a 2010 automatic transmission, an SMG transmission M5 with the V10. I've been talking about those for a few months now. I've been following a few of those and seeing how they do, but I really want the manual. But it's got an BMW F1 derived engine. It's badass. And my boss used to have one, and he's on his second RS7 now, and still to this day regrets getting rid of his 6-speed M5 with the V10. So he's got me thinking about that. And then, obviously, also the third car I was following was the Cedric. And for some financial reasons and just the desire of years of wanting one of these, that car won. That's the one I decided to bid on over the BMW and just go after. So, and it worked out. To me, as far as I'm concerned, it worked out quite well for the price point, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
We should probably, I could, yeah. I don't know if you can
go
tell
on
us
about this car for a lot longer.
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm happy with this purchase.
You are, man, and you know what? Like, I actually am. Like, I'm happy and I'm stoked for you as well, because like this is actually a car that you seem like you're actually. I mean, obviously, like, we're car guys, obviously,
Yeah,
but like we enjoy the purchases that we have. But honestly, I haven't seen you this excited about it, like anything, since. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen you this excited about something.
I don't know. I mean, as much as I liked my A6, as much as I liked my Genesis G70 with a stick shift, as much as I like my ST, all those cars are so replaceable. They're a dime a dozen at the end of the day. That's really what it comes down to. And yeah, I mean, sure, the fact that the Explorer can launch and run 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds or less is freaking awesome. But it's still an SUV. It's still my family hauler. It's still my general daily driver. But it's everywhere I go. At least once a day, I see another ST on the road, and a different one. It's not the same one. I see different colors all over the place. Dude, I've been seeing let's say 3 to 4 Cedrics and Glorias around the county. I only see them sporadically, a few times a year. So for me, that's another just one of those cool things, is to have something unique that also is a great driver. So, but yeah, I don't. Again, I'm excessively pleased about the purchase, and I could bullshit about it for way too long. But I mean, that really is most of our episode this time around, is talking about that. I mean, you did a lot of cool vlogging too, which you got to make sure to link that in the description of these videos on Spotify and whatnot. Talking about your trip and the car and stuff like that. So.
No, I for sure will, man. Like I said, like it was an enjoyable trip. It was an enjoyable drive, and I think like the best part of that trip of all was actually delivering the car to you, like actually delivering it to your house. Even though like I enjoyed driving it for like freaking 9.5 hours, I think just parking it like in your driveway and seeing you waiting at like 11 freaking 40 at night time, just there like recording, and I was like, hell yeah,
just excited for it, dude.
Yeah, I was like, hell yeah, dude. So that honestly, like that brought me like so much more joy than driving the car for like the previous like freaking hours, because I was like, hell yeah, dude. Like my boy got his car. He's super excited about it. He's happy as shit, and he's gonna get to enjoy it.
I'm glad my childlike excitement was contagious and could wear off a little bit. Yeah, I was pumped. I was so excited that night. I had anxiety the whole day, just waiting. I was waiting for that text to be like, oh, something blew up, broke down, something like that. And like, I didn't bother you. I waited like every 2 to 3 hours, check in and stuff like that. And every time, nope, everything's going great, fueling up again, smooth ride. Like, it was good to hear that shit as we went through. So,
hell yeah, dude. Anyways, let's do a quick recap here, because we're coming up close to an hour here. Yeah, so the Veterans United, I liked it. It was actually a really smooth beer. But I should have started off with the Angry Chair, and I'll tell you right now why. So this is actually a 6.3% honey rye wheat ale. It was smooth. I don't know how I feel about the whole honey rye wheat ale. Wheats or wheat ales are not. I'm not exactly fond of those beers, but this is actually really good. It was very smooth. It was really refreshing. Um, but I still should have started off with the Angry Chair, and the reason for that is because I looked it up while we were on the podcast or while we were talking. This is only 4.5%, so it's actually a lot lighter than that. So I feel like I should have started off with this guy right here and then ended up with that. This one, same thing. It was very, very smooth. It was very light. It's a Pilsner. I know that Mike said that he's huge into Pilsners. Me, not so much. I'm more into like IPAs and stouts and porters and just like really heavier beers.
Yeah, you kind of lean the same way I do with a lot of these beers.
Yeah, but these were still good. These were very refreshing. I can see myself drinking both of these guys again um, on a later date, just for like especially during the summertime because it gets really freaking hot here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're very very refreshing. But Angry Chair, really really good. Veterans United, really good beer as well. I have nothing but good things to say about both of those beers, even though they're not my style of beer, but they're still really good and refreshing. The Toki Suntory, awesome beer. I'm sorry, awesome whiskey. Awesome whiskey. So thanks, Nick, for that recommendation. I know that you said that it's a really, really good whiskey for just kind of getting
money.
used to. Yeah, for the money,
Yeah.
and then also just getting used to like that barrel aged and smoky flavor because it's not like strong. It's not in your face. I have the Whistle Pig bottle that you gave me, which is it's good, but man, it packs a punch like on that first sip. Oh my god! Versus this is more subtle. It's very it's
dude.
It's not as big of a punch.
It's very Japanese. The Toki is a very smooth, respectful delivery. Like it just comes in smooth, mellow. All the right whiskey flavors and whatnot from the grains and stuff. It is a very unique whiskey from what I've had. I've had a couple Japanese whiskeys. I've had a very nice, expensive bottle from Suntory, the Hibiki. With a special painted bottle and all that shit. 17 years. I mean, that was phenomenal. But dude, that was $250. And again, I mean, I got a special bottle while I was in Tokyo Airport. But for $30 or whatever, that Toki is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's a good way to get somebody that's not used to drinking whiskey into drinking some whiskey because of how smooth it is. Like even for my wife, the first thing that turns her off is that burn that she gets that whole funky face thing that like I'm immune to now at this point. But the Toki is a great one for somebody trying to break into a darker liquor, even though it's very pale. It's definitely not in a barrel very long, but it is phenomenally smooth, phenomenally subtle, in all the right ways. So
for anybody that is interested in actually trying this stuff to get more into darker liquors, darker bourbons and scotches, you can pick this up at Publix or Total Wine. Not bad. It's like $27.99 plus tax, so it's like 30 something in change with tax. It's not bad. It's not bad. No. It's actually really good. By the way,
it's the same price point as a 750 ml of Woodford, which is my go-to bourbon. I mean, it's right there. So
yeah, exactly. And by the way, Suntory Whiskey or Total Wine or Publix, if you guys want to sponsor us, let me know. I'll put the email in the description below.
I need to get a sticker for the Cedric. This is like powered by Suntory Whiskey or something.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
I get pulled over. I don't know. That might not be a good idea.
The cop might know. Or they might not know. They might know. They might not know. Whatever.
Yeah. It's not like one of our co-hosts potentially pulling me over that understands, but
exactly right.
So,
anyways, what about your drinks?
So the second glass of Michter's bourbon is gone. Again, phenomenal. Maybe harsh is the right word. Maybe a little bit spicier than the Woodford that I normally drink, but still just a phenomenal. I mean, Michter's is kind of not a big name, not like your Woodfords, your Jacks, and your stuff like that, but it's getting way more popular. And for the price point of being in the high 40s, low 50s, I think generally solid bottle of bourbon for sure. The sake, the Junmai sake that I'm drinking is great. I mean, On the back of it, they even tell you that it's more on the dry. It's all the way on the dry side, and it's on the light side as far as the body of it. It's not a full bodied sake. But that being said, because it is not sweet but also light, it's a great drinker. Like I'm not big into sweet wines and stuff unless I'm having a rice or a ice wine with dessert or
Mm-hmm.
a tawny port, something like that. That's one thing. For like a post dinner drink or two. This stuff though, you could very easily sit there and actually the best thing I think for this would be with sushi. Because it's so light and kind of delicate, even though it's dry, so it's not sweet. It's not going to throw off the flavor of the sushi you're eating or really any meal. So if you wanted to put some of this in a wine glass and drink it in a bigger portion over a longer period of time, it's really not going to upset your palate. As far as I can tell, at least with anything you're eating, but something delicate like a sushi or a fish, which would probably be a phenomenal pairing with. Again, and not take away from the actual preparation of the food you're eating. So, for sitting here doing my little glasses of it, it's very enjoyable. It's very light. It's a nice nightcap. But yeah, with a meal, definitely well suited for something on a more delicate flavor side.
Nice. That's awesome.
So
yeah, I had a sake here. I think on the podcast, it was okay, but I don't know. Sakes for me, they're more like a hit or miss. I do like that one place that I can't remember who we went with. I know it was Yumi, Carmelo, his wife, your wife is there. Is that Japanese place right by your house? They had good
JMP.
sake. Yeah, they had really good sake.
So so not this bottle, but the other bottle I have in my wine fridge is the same bottle that I get from them every time I go, and it's an unfiltered, like a milkier kind of consistency,
Mm-hmm.
slightly sweet, but also light bodied. That's my go-to when I go. I get the same bottle every single time. I tried a few there, and I like that one. The sweetness with the unfiltered milkiness of it. It's got a great mouthfeel. And then for anybody local, J&P Asian Fusion, phenomenal Japanese fusion restaurant, Asian fusion, great sushi. But yeah, tangent.
Yeah. And if I can't remember, I think Brandon is a big fan of J&P. I think
most local Cape Coral people that have been there at least once that like Asian food will tell you that's probably their favorite place in Cape Coral. You've got a couple places around. You've got them in Cape. You've got Mox in Fort Myers. And of course, you've got some probably high-end places in Naples. But you've got some that always pop up, in conversations. And yeah, for anybody that lives local in the Cape Coral area, it is well worth the trip. So.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is.
But.
And on that note, that's all the time that we have here for today. Man, we freaking rambled off here today.
About a car, go figure.
Yes. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate every single one of you guys that listen or watch our podcast and subscribe to our channels. Don't forget to save your brews and hit the road responsibly. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We want to be able to put out more content here for you guys, but we won't be able to do that unless we, increase our subscriber view. So please share our stuff. Cheers to booze and cars, and we'll catch you guys on the next upload.
Cheers.